Hey guys, it's Madison and welcome to this very exciting video. As you can probably tell from the title, we are doing a 40-hour, 7-day language challenge this week. As the name implies, that means that I am going to be studying 40 hours over the course of the next 7 days, which is an average of almost 6 hours per day, which is quite intensive. All that is very exciting, except for the fact that today I woke up with a very sore throat, which is the telltale sign that I am getting sick with some sort of cold or flu or something. So that's not good. But thankfully this morning I was able to go to the doctor like first thing in the morning and get some prescriptions to combat the symptoms. So hopefully I will not be too down and out throughout the course of this challenge because I am super excited to go through it this week. So today's actually Sunday, which is the day before the challenge starts. I thought I would go ahead and actually film the intro the day before this time instead of trying to take away time from the first day to get all of this filming out of the way. But yeah, in addition to doing 40 hours of language learning this week, and by language learning I mean literally anything language-y at all. It could be passive immersion, it could be active study, it could be anything involving languages at all. But in addition to having that focus of trying to get 40 hours, I'm also trying to have a primarily reading focused week because my theme for this month of March is reading. So I'm trying to read a lot this month, but also a bunch of different things, different genres and types of reading basically throughout the course of the month. So hopefully I can use this 40 hours challenge to make a lot of progress towards that goal as well. So you're probably gonna see a lot of different reading stuff happening this week. But yeah, I think that's enough of a rambly intro for this challenge. So I will see you guys on day one.
특수보는 이 시점을 늦춰달라는 의견을 낸 것으로 알려졌습니다.
지켜봤는데요. 대통령과 경호차량 행렬을 볼 수 없었습니다.
And the next thing we need to do is add in the ear. So the ear is going to go in this back section. The man and the woman. So let's make this one kind of like a teenage boy look.
So hello from day 2. As you can probably hear in my voice, hopefully not too annoyingly, I have taken medication, so the congestion is worn off for the time being slightly. But yeah, after day 1 I am already behind. I only ended up getting like fewer than 3 hours done yesterday. I didn't go to work yesterday or today just because I've been so sick and leaking from my face, and that's not good for being stuck in the classroom for like 5 hours of the day. So thankfully my boss was very gracious. I found subs for yesterday and today. My students are doing like asynchronous assignments or like group assignments without me being there present. So even though I haven't had to go into the office, I have still had to kind of have work brain on for several hours of the day, both yesterday and today, to make sure things were like posting on time, that the students all understood their assignments and messaging them and stuff. So yeah, basically, even though I didn't go into work, I definitely still had several hours of work stuff being done, and then also just less energy because again, I'm sick and I've had a little bit of like dizziness and brain fog as well. So not necessarily the strongest mental state to be doing this challenge in, but I am hoping, like I can tell I'm on hopefully the upward trend towards feeling better. I'm thinking tomorrow I'll probably be able to go into work and be a bit more back to normal, hopefully. But anyway, all that said, any interesting things to comment on so far? First of all, as you guys saw, I did watch some news. I did paint my nails. I was trying to like manifest spring coming. Then I woke up this morning to snow on the ground. So did not successfully manifest that for sure. And then yesterday I also started the N3 practice test on the Todai Japanese app. It is not going well. I did pause it in the middle because as soon as I started taking the test, I kind of got this like dizzy brain fog that got like worse and worse and worse as I was taking it. And so even though I originally planned to do the whole thing in one fell swoop, I decided that I was like not even really taking anything in. I was just like, my eyes were scanning and nothing was happening basically. So I was like, Madison, let's pause this and come back another day when I have a fresher brain. So that is what I did. I paused it in the middle of the second out of 3 sections. So I'll come back to that probably tomorrow. I don't think today I'm going to try and attempt that again because I am still a little bit mentally struggling. So what I am going to do today is a Newsday Tuesday, which is a fun thing that I like to do on Tuesdays because it rhymes. So I'm going to try and do as many news related activities as I can today. I'm not exclusively going to do news. I'll probably do a little bit of my news in Korean textbook from Talk to Me in Korean, and then watch a program or 2 of the Korean news, maybe 1 or 2 other news related things. But other than that, I also am hoping to finish the novel that I'm currently reading by the end of today. I was hoping to at least read a little bit or finish all of it yesterday, but that did not happen at all. So hopefully today I can get to that. And I'm enjoying that story, so hopefully that won't be too kind of brain intensive for me. But yeah, other than that, I'm gonna kind of just do what I feel like doing as the day progresses in hopes of getting as many hours as possible. It's currently 2:30 p.m. I have not started anything languagey yet today. So if I can maintain a decent level of energy and not devolve into dizziness and brain fog like I did yesterday, then hopefully I will be able to get several more hours done today than I did yesterday, because yesterday was pretty weak for the beginning of this week. Oh, and also I do want to draw again today. I forgot to mention this, but I am doing a controversial thing, and that is I'm going to include my drawing time in my hours for this week, just because I really want to develop a more consistent habit of drawing every day or close to every day. And so I figured I'd use this challenge also as a way to kind of hopefully solidify that habit as well. And so by including it in my hours for the week, I'll feel more justified in spending time on that other hobby that I also really, really want to spend more time on, rather than feeling like I'm having to choose one goal over the other. So I will keep track of my hours, both with the drawing and without the drawing, just to see. I also am hoping to get, 40 hours even without including the drawing as well. But at the end, I will show you my time with drawing included and also with it excluded, in case you are a purist and you want to know exactly how much hours I spent exclusively on languages, no drawing involved. So yeah, that is my update from the beginning of day 2. I will check in with you guys later, hopefully with a less congested sounding voice.
특검법에 대해서도 거부권을 쓰는 거 아니냐는 말이 나오는데
The eyes are going to move along with the head. And with this, you can kind of just follow along here. Actually, eyes, and everybody has their own style once you start feeling comfortable.
저도 도와드릴게요. 아니요, 괜찮습니다. 저도.
我回家帮你拿些衣服，马上回来。
우리 딸 선택은 믿어야지. 근데 수정아, 그래도 힘들면 힘들다고 해.
It is now Thursday, which is day 4 of the challenge, and it's been quite the week so far. Lots of ups and downs for sure. So let me update you on everything that's gone down since, I guess, Tuesday afternoon was the last time that I updated you guys. But yeah, so on Tuesday, it was supposed to be a Newsday Tuesday day where I did lots of news related activities, and I did watch an episode of the news. So I did at least mildly do some news stuff, but definitely did not do as much as I had hoped to or planned to that day. I had made like a whole to-do list of news stuff and also some other active stuff that I wanted to get done on Tuesday. But yeah, I had accomplished a couple of active activities that day. And then at dinner time, I had gotten a bit kind of tired. And so I thought, you know, while I eat dinner, I could watch the first episode of a drama just for a quick break. And then after that first episode, I'll go back to accomplishing my kind of news and more active studying for the day. But if there's one weakness I have in language learning, it is me and binge watching dramas. I have no self-control about stopping in the middle of a drama when it ends on any sort of cliffhanger. I need to know what happens next. So I did not go back and do any other active things or newsy things that night. I just watched the first 9 episodes of that drama straight with basically no breaks from dinner time until past midnight. And so because of that, I did end up getting a lot of hours that day. I got literally over 12 hours if you include my drawing time as well. So I finished off that day with a lot more hours than I expected, a lot less news than I expected, and a lot less sleep than I expected. So yeah, not the optimal day, although again, the hours were helpful since day 1 was a bit lower than I needed it to be. And then yesterday on Wednesday, because I hadn't gotten enough sleep on the previous night, and honestly, ever since I got sick on Sunday, I have not really been sleeping well. I haven't really been able to fall asleep. Like even when I was staying up a little bit too late watching that drama, I wasn't like really sleepy just because something about the congestion, I just could not fall asleep or like stay asleep long enough. So by Wednesday, I was just really, really exhausted from several days of not being well rested basically. And so Wednesday, I was able to go to work, but I came home from work that day and just crashed for like 4 hours. It was a big old hefty nap that day. I woke up in the late evening and I did manage to get, how much did I get done? I got an hour and 43 minutes of stuff done yesterday. And over half of that was passive activities. So yeah, honestly, I needed the day of sleep basically after having difficulty sleeping for the past like 3 or 4 days. And so it was a good kind of day off of kind of catch up day for sleep, but not really any time or energy left in the day to accomplish a lot. So because of that understandably weaker day yesterday, even though I had the crazy day on Tuesday, I am behind coming into today. I have completed almost 17 hours so far coming into today, including drawing time. If you don't include drawing time, I have just over 15 hours basically, and I should be at almost 23 hours. So definitely a bit behind, like I said. And today, Thursday, honestly, even though I did take a big nap yesterday, I still did not have the best night's sleep last night. And so today I also was super, super tired. So unfortunately, I have not done much so far. It's already almost 7 o'clock. And after work, I just came home and kind of vegged out for a few hours without doing anything language-wise. And I'm just exhausted, honestly. So I'm hoping to go to bed pretty early today so that I can go into the weekend with a lot of energy and kind of willpower to work on languages a lot. But hopefully before I do go to bed, I can get at least maybe 2 or 3 hours before I crash doing some language stuff so that it's not quite as overwhelming numbers of things I need to accomplish on the weekend. So that is my goal for today. What I'm hoping to get accomplished, number 1, I'm almost finished with that novel I've been reading. I honestly expected to finish it much earlier in this challenge, like in day 1 or 2, honestly, but obviously that has not happened. And so I think today I can finish it. I have like 2 or 3 more chapters left of the story, and I'm really interested in what's happening in the story right now as well. So I'm excited to kind of work on that and hopefully finish it tonight. Aside from that, like I said, I am pretty exhausted right now, so I'm probably not going to do anything too brain intensive tonight. I might do a little bit of either Mandarin or Japanese, like active reading stuff, just very briefly, like 10 or 20 minutes of that. And then probably I will have kind of a relaxing end to the evening with either some webtoon reading or starting another drama, which hopefully, fingers crossed, I won't be tempted to binge watch and stay up too late because, like I said, I am really tired. And so I think even if I wanted to binge watch it tonight, I think I would fall asleep anyway. So I think there's not a huge danger of that happening tonight. So yeah, that is the plan for today. Hopefully get at least 2 or 3 hours of stuff done so that I can go into the weekend with a manageable number of hours, but also some energy and motivation left over to tackle those hours left. So that is this week's kind of halfway point update. I'm gonna go ahead and start reading and see what I can accomplish tonight. The last chapter, showtime.
시작하면서 신나는 이도시.
So hello from day 5, aka Friday of this week, and yeah, today is the first day of my 3-day weekend. I don't teach on Friday, so thankfully I have 3 whole days to tackle mostly language stuff for the end of this challenge, although today and tomorrow I do have swing dancing stuff in the evenings, so I won't have the entire day free to just focus on this challenge. But the nice thing about that also is that I'll have close to 7 hours of just traveling time, and the majority of that is just sitting on the subway, so hopefully I'll be able to convert a lot of those hours to language related stuff to get those hours counted toward this challenge as well. But coming into today, I realized as I was calculating my numbers yesterday that actually I had been looking at my calculations wrong. I was looking at the next day's numbers for where it should be on a certain day. So I thought I was really behind, but actually I'm only coming into today around 2 or 3 hours behind. So not too bad at all. Honestly, better than most of these challenges that I've done before. Usually I come into the weekend pretty dramatically behind and have to really fight to succeed for the week. So I'm pretty confident, at least as of right now, that I will be able to accomplish my goal for this week. So because I am a couple hours behind, I need to accomplish around 6.5 hours of languagey stuff per day for the next 3 days in order to hit 40 hours. But like I said, it is the weekend, so hopefully that will be attainable. So as for the tasks that I wanted to accomplish yesterday, I think I was pretty successful. The main task I wanted to do was to finish the Korean novel that I was reading, and I did manage to finish that. It was very engaging. I really enjoyed it, and I'm very much looking forward to starting the next book, probably today or tomorrow. And then after that, I was pretty tired, like I said, so I just actually sat down and started a new Japanese drama. And I actually did get pretty into it and watched the first 4 episodes. They weren't like fully hour-long episodes, so it didn't take super long, but because of that, I did manage to get over 4 hours of language stuff yesterday, even though it was mostly passive stuff, which did help me to not fall too far behind coming into this weekend. So as for today, I think what I'm going to do is start off by finishing up the N3 practice test that I had started, I think Monday or Tuesday. It was one of those early days where I was really brain foggy and not really processing things well, and I was just struggling with the test. I think also it's just above my level, honestly, and so I think that wasn't helping, but also I was not processing things very well at all that day, so hopefully it won't be quite as much of a struggle, although I do suspect that I will not pass it. So we shall see how that turns out once I finish it, and then after that I'm probably going to do some Korean reading because that is one of my biggest goals for today, and then we'll see what I feel like doing after that. I might watch more of that drama because I am curious to watch the rest of it. But yeah, my first 2 priorities are number 1, finishing up that JLPT practice test, and number 2, reading something in Korean. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up this test. Okay, so this is where I was, and I still have a decent little chunk of the grammar/reading test. Wow, a lot more than I thought actually of that, as well as the listening section. Honestly, I wish that the timer didn't restart, so I'm not really going to be sure how long it'll take me to finish this test, but I'm just going to take as long as it takes me to get through it. Like I said, I was really struggling anyway, so I don't think it'll take me too long because I probably won't understand the majority of this text. So we'll see how I do and how long it takes me to finish, I guess, like the second half-ish of this exam. Alright, so just finished, and it took me like almost 2 hours, like an hour and a half maybe, to complete the second half-ish of the test. So definitely I don't think I would have finished if I did it all in one fell swoop. But at the beginning I was feeling really good about how much better I was able to like comprehend things compared to on Monday, but then by the end I was just utterly exhausted again, so my brain was really struggling to kind of focus on the words coming at me in the listening. So there were a few questions again in these last few where they don't show you the question or the answers, where I was struggling again to kind of focus and actually hear the question as it was being said. So I had to guess completely on a few where I just didn't even know what the question was that they had asked because I wasn't listening really. So we'll see. I still feel pretty good about the listening overall. The other sections, not great at all. So let's submit and see what I got. All right, let's talk results of this test because, wow. The required score to pass the N3 is 95 out of 180 according to my research online. And guess what I got on this exam? I got a 95 out of 180. I cannot believe I passed this exam. That's crazy. I can't believe, especially I didn't think I would even pass the N5 like a few days ago, like a week ago. And then here I am a week later passing the N3 by the slimmest of margins with like 0 margin, but wow, that is so shocking to me. That is so funny. Honestly, I feel like it's probably because I just guessed well on some of these questions because I was struggling so hard throughout the entirety of that exam. So I think just luck was on my side and I guessed well on a few questions. So that's funny to me, honestly, that I got N3 supposedly on this practice test again. But oh, wow. What a weird, funny result. But yeah, that's me, N3, just barely, apparently. So yeah, I am now officially like brain dead. I'm so mentally done after taking that second half of that test. So also, to be fair, I do think that when you combine my overall time from this past Monday and today, I definitely took more time than allowed. So let's be real, I probably didn't really pass, but I'm gonna claim it. So yeah, I'm gonna go take a break because I need it badly. I'm probably gonna eat a very late lunch. It's like 4 o'clock, but I'm gonna eat something, probably just relax and watch a few more episodes of that drama, honestly, until it's time for me to leave for Seoul. So that's the plan for the next thing. I am just like delirious and confused by these results. So yeah, time to just relax, eat something, and do something way less brain intensive, but I will check in with you guys at some point later. Hello from Saturday. I'm currently on the way to swing dance for the second day in a row, so I will update you guys on where things stand hours-wise when I get back. But on the subway, I am hoping to do a decent bit of reading, so hopefully that goes well, and I will see you guys later tonight. Alright, so time for the final end of week check-in and updates and results and all that fun stuff. First of all, I ended the week completely and utterly exhausted. And honestly, throughout the entirety of the week, I was just tired. That was the theme of these 7 days, just utter exhaustion. But diving into what I actually accomplished on the last few days of the challenge. The last time I gave any like detailed updates was Friday after I got the N3 results, which I'm still honestly flabbergasted by. I'm never going to actually go out anywhere and claim that I am N3 because that's an absurd statement to say. I am nowhere near any of the like benchmarks that they would claim that N3 can actually like do in Japanese. So I'm never gonna say, oh, I'm N3 level. It's just a pure lie. Once again, I think I just purely guessed my way into just barely gathering the minimum points to pass the exam. Plus, I took way longer than allowed. So honestly, I found that whole experience more amusing than anything. I was curious to see what level the N3 like test would be at and if it had more kanji and if it was, you know, more difficult to understand. And yes, definitely all those things were true. So interesting, even though the results were a bit wacky in my opinion. But moving on after that, like you guys saw, I was a bit loopy after that exam, so I did kind of chillax, watched more of the Japanese drama, went to swing dancing that evening, and on the subway, I ended up starting a new webtoon called Kuko Sarang Anya, which means that's not love, which as you can probably tell is a like romantic based webtoon, which is my favorite genre to read. And honestly, before I went to swing, I was debating whether or not I would even go, just because as I was sitting there relaxing, watching the drama episodes beforehand, at like 6 p.m., I was just completely drained of all energy. My eyes were like drooping, closed. I was like, I don't know if I can survive going all the way to Seoul, dancing, coming back late like I usually do. But I am glad that I did push through and go because I had a lot of fun. It was good exercise, and also it did allow me to read the webtoons there on the way there and back. So despite my utter exhaustion beforehand, I'm glad I did push through it because it was a good experience. The next day, once again, just completely and utterly exhausted. I even slept in the morning because it was the weekend, and still, for some reason, I was just so completely and utterly tired that it was so difficult to do almost anything that day, honestly. And so I didn't accomplish anything in the morning. I couldn't handle anything, honestly. I got ready and went to swing like you guys saw earlier in the video, and once again on the subway there and back I read webtoons. This time I read two. I caught up first on my favorite webtoon, which is Chosarang and Hate, and then I continued to read the other one I started the previous day. I didn't even stay the whole time at Swing because I didn't want to stay out so late when I was so exhausted. And so I thought, oh, I'll just come home, film an update on how things are going, do a bit more language stuff instead. But when I got home, once again, I had no energy. I could not even bear to turn on the camera and speak for a few minutes. So I just continued to read the webtoons for a while, and then I just collapsed and fell asleep that night. So basically, coming into the last day, on Friday, I had accomplished 7 hours and 39 minutes, and then Saturday, I had accomplished 4 hours and 27 minutes. So coming into Sunday, if you do count the drawing time, I only needed 6 hours and 37 minutes, which is honestly not bad. That's basically pretty close to what I would have needed to do if I was doing the average amount needed per day. If you don't count the drawing stuff, I would need 8 hours and 11 minutes. And actually coming into Sunday, when I was looking at this chart, I actually had forgotten a few hours from Friday stuff. So I thought I had like 2 extra hours I had to do. So like 8 hours or 10 hours, depending on if you counted the drawing or not. And so I was feeling really overwhelmed because once again, like I was the entire week, I was completely exhausted on Sunday. And so facing down like 8 or 10 hours of stuff when you're really, really tired is really intimidating. But thankfully I realized like halfway through the day that I did have those like missing 2 hours that I should have included. And so I was like, thank God, because it made it a lot more bearable. And so yeah, because I was feeling so utterly exhausted for like the bajillionth day in a row, I did not push myself to do anything out of my comfort zone. Basically, I continued to read all the available episodes of the webtoon I had started. And then the rest of the day was just dramas, basically. I finished up the Japanese drama I had started, An Incurable Case of Love, I think it was called, and that was actually pretty good. It was very like cringy and cliche, I guess you could say, but those two things never stopped me. So I enjoyed it. In fact, it reminded me a lot of the really old Taiwanese drama called It Started With a Kiss and They Kiss Again, which is season 1 and season 2, and that's the same story as Playful Kiss in Korean and Mischievous Kiss in Japanese. All of them are based on the same manga, basically. And the really old Taiwanese version of that story is one of my favorite Taiwanese dramas ever. It's like so old and so cringy and so terrible, but also like in all the best ways, if that makes any sense at all. It's just one of those like, you know, that's close to your heart, even though you know parts of it are just utter trash. So because this storyline of this drama, this newer Japanese drama, reminded me like a lot of the same notes, I guess you could say, as that storyline, I basically found it very enjoyable to watch. It still had its cringe moments and the chemistry wasn't nearly as good as the original couple of the drama that I'm thinking of, but still I enjoyed it a lot. And then after that, I started watching a Mandarin drama that was just absolutely terrible. Like everything about it was horrifying, honestly. I don't know why I watched so much of it. I watched almost 4 hours of it. I'm not even going to name what it was because it was so bad. I don't even want anyone to go search it. It's just, it was dumb. It was horrible. It was stupid. Everything about it was just not good, basically. And so the weird thing was, it was like, the way I found it was through Viki, which is a place where you can find basically Eastern Asian dramas. And it was one of the most popular, I think it was #1 on popular mainland China shows on Viki these days. And so I don't know what was going on. It was like lots of assault. Like it was like not okay. I was like basically watching it, like binge watching it and just like reacting verbally like, what? How is this okay? What are you doing? Like I also hate watching it, if that makes any sense. I was so tired and I was still engaged enough by the just absolute utter trash and like trying to figure out how they're going to like resurrect this horrible main lead that there was, and it kept just getting worse. So I did not finish it, but I did watch way too much of that drama. And so because I did watch a lot of dramas on the last day, I did manage to successfully hit 40 hours this week. In total on Sunday, I got 9 hours and 5 minutes of language exposure, which means that at the end of the week, in total, if you include drawing, I got 42 hours and 28 minutes. If you don't include drawing, I got 40 hours and 54 minutes. So even without the drawing time, I still managed to hit 40 hours this week, which is very exciting, especially considering that coming into the weekend and especially Sunday, feeling just so energyless and exhausted. The fact that I did manage to pull it out and succeed with the challenge, I'm very impressed with in one sense, but you know, being exhausted for 7 days in a row is also not the most fun experience. I'm not sure why it was even so tiring, to be totally fair. My best theory is that because I was sick at the very beginning of the week and I was not sleeping well for like multiple days in a row, that even after that, when I was feeling better and had a few catch-up days in terms of sleep and was actually getting enough rest, my body was still like recovering from the exhaustion and sickness previously as my theory. I don't know. It was a rough time, honestly. And so I'm glad that I did hit the 40 hours in the end because it always feels nice to succeed. That being said, I will say, even though I did succeed in terms of numbers, it didn't really feel very successful, if that makes any sense. Number one, you know, because I was just so exhausted. But number two, it didn't feel like I was doing enough actual like difficult things to justify the exhaustion. Again, I know that in theory, I think it was just my body's reaction to all the like physical lack of sleep and stuff and being sick. But even though I know that in theory, it still felt kind of sad to be doing mostly like passive stuff, like a lot of drama watching, and then still feeling so exhausted after a day of doing mostly that. Like, why do I feel tired? I've just been sitting here watching a drama. And so I did kind of feel like not great about myself and my language learning throughout, especially the end of the week. The beginning, I did a lot more kind of variety of things and more active things within that variety. And so I think by the end, when I was just doing the kind of the same old easier tasks, it just felt like, is this really a challenge necessarily? I will say I really did enjoy kind of reading through all of your guys' comments as you also went through this challenge and posted updates on my community tab. I think I posted every day during the challenge or almost every single day. And so it was really fun to kind of read you guys' updates and how you guys are doing along the way as well, especially being so tired. It's kind of nice to like have others out there talking about how they were doing to kind of motivate me to also do things as well. But one of the commenters on my final poll at the very end of the challenge asking if you succeeded or not, basically, the way they phrased how they felt was actually really similar to how I feel coming into the end of this week, because they were discussing how even though they hit 40 hours throughout the course of the week, because they didn't actually accomplish the specific goals they wanted to accomplish during the week, they didn't consider the week as a whole as a complete success. And I think I feel very similar, because even though I did hit the magic number of 40 hours throughout the course of 7 days, it felt a bit empty. And I think it's because coming into the week, I had set more specific goals for myself. Like I had mentioned kind of generally at the very beginning of this video a while back that I wanted to do a reading focus week specifically, especially like push myself out of my comfort zone in Korean. I had like specific goals of certain things I wanted to read that I never even started throughout the course of the week that were more advanced Korean or different genres of Korean than I usually do, and I never even touched them throughout the course of the week. Also do Chinese. I didn't even finish the one very short story that I started. I read 2 chapters out of 4. Didn't finish that. I'd hoped to draw every single day and only did the first 2 days and stopped. It was just like a lot of the things that I'd hoped to accomplish, I just barely even scratched the surface or didn't even start on those goals. So I think I'm considering this like a mixed result kind of situation, because number one, I did do a lot of language exposure, and that's always a good thing. Like I always say for these challenges, even if you fail, like you're still pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying to do more language stuff than you have been in the past. And that was definitely true for me. If you watch my monthly recaps for January or February, you would have noticed that I did not study a ton or like do a lot of languagey stuff throughout the course of those 2 months. And I think that, I don't recall the numbers exactly, but this week might have surpassed both of those months combined in terms of hours. So definitely it was like a good kind of gear up, I guess you could say, in terms of how much time I was spending on languages. And considering it in that aspect, it was a really good week. And I think that in some aspects I did have a lot of fun. I watched a drama that I really enjoyed in Japanese. I watched another one that I think I enjoyed in Korean. I honestly forgot which one. Oh yeah, I did enjoy that one as well. And even though I consider drama watching almost kind of a cop-out for myself on these challenges, I haven't really watched a lot of dramas this year in general, and so I think actually allowed myself to enjoy some dramas for the first time in forever was also kind of fun. But on the other hand, like I already mentioned, because I didn't actually accomplish a lot of the more specific goals I had in my head for this week, I still also don't consider it a complete success because it feels like I failed a lot of more minor goals that I had for myself. So yeah, that is the kind of brief summary of how I feel about this past week. Definitely kind of mixed feelings for sure. Let's briefly look at the charts that I have for the week before wrapping up. Here is the chart of the overall time, including both passive and active time. As you can see, the second day, Tuesday, was definitely by far the strongest day in terms of overall time, because again, I started off the day very strong with a lot of active activities, and then I finished off the day binge watching a ton of Korean drama episodes. And so I really think if I hadn't built up such a strong number of hours at the beginning of the week through this binge watching session, I don't think I would have accomplished the 40 hours at all, because like I said, I was so exhausted by the end of the week that there was no way I could come back from a huge deficit of hours. So definitely grateful for that experience. And then other than that, pretty low numbers near the beginning of the week and higher numbers at the end like usual, excluding Tuesday, of course. Yeah, if you look at the language breakdown, this is where we stand. No surprise for me, Korean is usually the highest category in these challenges, and this is no different. Korean is once again over half of the time, and actually, because of that drama I watched in Japanese, very strong presence in this week. Usually it is not quite so high, but that definitely helped push it to the strong second place. Also the N3 exam probably pushed that number up for sure. Next, we're gonna look at the active time, and before I even do that, I wanna kind of mention what I mean by that. I think some people include reading in their passive time because it's like an input situation. For me, reading is very brain intensive a lot of the time and like really focusing on words and like what they mean and like guessing from context. And so I feel like for me, I always consider it active because it's tiring. Like for me, watching dramas is very easy and reading is very much not usually. So when I differentiate active versus passive, usually it's kind of the level of engagement I feel like my brain is currently involved in. When I'm watching a drama, I am listening to some degree and paying attention to some degree, but it's a lot less strenuous on my brain than reading is. So I consider reading active and watching dramas passive, if that makes sense. So looking at the active time for this week, as you can see, for active time, there is a much more clear delineation of work days versus weekend days. The first 4 days of the week I have classes, and so because of that, did not have a ton of energy to put towards actively working on languages, whereas on the weekends I have a lot more, well, usually I have a lot more energy to put towards active time. This week I was very exhausted, so maybe not energy, but I did have more time throughout the day to actually devote towards active stuff. And also these are the 3 days where I was reading a lot of webtoons, and so that definitely boosted up those numbers to be much higher as well. Then looking at the language breakdown for the active time, clearly Korean is the strongest by far because number one, I finished that novel in Korean, and number two, I read a lot of webtoons as well on the subway, so that definitely is the majority of this active time. And then followed by Japanese because of the N3 exam. That was obviously a decent chunk of time as well. So excluding the drawing time, if you look at just the language time, out of the 40 hours and 54 minutes of language study and passive immersion, 17 hours and 36 minutes were active language hours. So that's not quite half, but it is close to half. So I am, considering how tired and exhausted I was and how much dramas I did watch, I am pretty happy with that number. And if you look at the reading time specifically, that's 16 hours and 51 minutes of time. So that's almost all of the active time was reading related in some way. So again, considering my original goal this week of having a very reading focused week and doing mostly reading activities, I don't think that I was imagining less than half of the time. I was hoping for over half of the hours being reading related in some way. So I think that also kind of plays into why I felt so disappointed at the end of the week. But again, like I said, it is what it is. I was feeling so tired, and so to get that number of hours when I was so exhausted is also kind of impressive in its own way. So I'm trying to look on the bright side here instead of being the pessimist that I often am at the end of these kinds of challenges where I set really high goals, and then when I fail to inevitably complete them, I feel disappointed. But yeah, that was my 40-hour, 7-day language challenge. If you also completed this challenge, let me know down below how your week went. And for those of you who did, kind of post on my daily community updates. I really enjoyed reading all your progress. Honestly, a lot of the days of this challenge, it was the most fun part of my day, seeing how you guys are doing, and I definitely gained a lot of motivation from that. And hopefully I'll be hosting more language-related kind of challenges or week-long things later throughout this year as well, so stay tuned for more play-along kind of challenges like this in the future. But for now, that is all I have to say. I will see you guys in the next video, and until then, annyeong!